Righto, good day everybody. I did a video of people in perspective walking down a street. This video, I'm going to do a charcoal textured drawing of this scene. I think it's France that I nicked again or pinched or got off Google Images. I wanted a picture with people, sunlight and shadow across buildings. This one down here, the one that I'm talking about, I don't know who did it. I've flipped it over a bit to get another image. It's charcoal and wash. Now, I'm going to use that, but I'm going to put a bit more texture into the drawing. I've done a lot of drawing, so I could do this freehand because of how many drawing and, yes, my confidence and capabilities. So, but for people watching, if you haven't done this or you'd like to get involved with it, as I said in the demonstration with people in the street, there are literally thousands of people around the world who are labeled or are keen on drawing street images, street artists. I mean, I like graffiti, but these are people who sit in cafes or take a photograph or sit on the side of the road or on a table anywhere, drawing and drawing and drawing. That's how they see. The more you look, the more you see, to do with perspective. Anyway, I ain't going to France. So I'm not sitting in a busy street. I'm in my studio. I've got this image here and I want to transfer that type of work to this image. So look, what I did, and you can do this, I've squared this image up with blue ballpoint pen. So halfway, and then divided it equal into all these squares, like so on this. Very lightly in pencil, halfway through there. So I can take what's ever in there and put that in there. Now, I'm going to do it sketchily, but you can work this out through proportions and take that square into there. But I'm going to talk about perspective. Okay, so I did the square up on a straight edge, bit of old paint splattered timber through there to there. Now, I'm going to use these bits of stick as measuring sticks, perspective sticks. Down here, I've got two charcoal pencils. I tend to break because I press hard. A white charcoal pencil, a couple of sort of thin rubbers, not for rubbing out, but for texture. Some willow charcoal. I am a bit brutal, but some people like this. Some compressed charcoal, some white chalk and pastel. Okay, so the first thing, drawing. Now I'm going to draw it in with a very softly, I think that's an HB. Yeah, an HB. Now, I don't want to go too hard because charcoal and graphite don't really mix together. If you have the confidence, you can go straight in with, willow charcoal or any of these to just draw it. Or I think, as I imagined, this person did with a charcoal pencil. I love these. Conte, I don't know how you pronounce it. Conte, Paris, Poya. Obviously, that's France. Right. So, with a pencil first. The horizon line. These people are level with whoever took the photograph. Now, where you see these shutters, there they're going up to the horizon and there they're gently coming down. So I look for something that's level. See the window ledge there and across there. So that's the horizon line. If this wasn't there, that's where the edge of the earth would be. So it's in this second square about there, right? So that is the horizon line. Now, there's not a common vanishing point here with those and those. But I'm going to take the edges or the shapes of here to find out where these perspectives are. So the end of this building here is somewhere down here. So all I'm going to do, there's a drain pipe, so I'm going to bring a line down roughly where I look at this area, and maybe I'm going to do it bigger because I'm going to do some splattering of charcoal. So I'm just going to bring a line down there, and it doesn't have to be straight. It gives it more character, a little bit of a wiggle. So very gently. Now, down on this corner here, there's a guardrail, pedestrian guardrail, but just above that, there's a slight slope here. Now then this goes up, right? And it's got an angle. So I look roughly on this one, so this angle. Now look, these straight edges, you can take that angle there, that sort of keep it look, right? It's a bit bent, but it's on this type of angle. So I come across, look at it, find it, and do a line. Right, now that carries on up. Now in here, there's a door with a sign or something just across it. Now that inhabits this bit, so that the door I'm going to put just down there. Right, the door, that's that one there. And up there, there's a shape, it goes above. Now there's a little bit of perspective there, see? Relatively straight, just above the horizon line, but still coming down there, and that one's greater. Now I'm not going to put everything in. There's a sign here. I might just put a mark. Just above the door, there's a black one. So I just put a shape. This window that goes directly above the door. So I look up, and there, so I start there and put this line down, right there, and it's a little bit sort of the same thickness or whatever with the door, so I go straight up to there. Now there's got railings here and there. There is perspective here, so it's on a slight angle there. So it's above the door and a slight angle. Up the top, this window goes up there, it's the longest one. You can see more of it. It's always surprising when you see how long it is. I've got this a bit longer, okay? So I'm sort of stretching it a little bit, but it's horses for courses, okay? So in this drawing, because it's a bit this way, and I've done it that way. So the angle of the window, look, I look at those. The building is a little bit sort of bent round, so they're not, it doesn't matter. So I look at the top of the window and I bring that down. It's the angle, right? So it's here, about that type of angle. And then how far does this go up? There's a shutter, and that finishes on this line. So I'm going to use that there. Now there's a shutter here, and I'm going to put a shape. It goes slightly up. Now, there are these sort of the bottom plastering along the edge of the building and the footpath. So the angle there, and I'm just going to go above it and put a line in conjunction to there and this shutter. And then it goes on to where these tables and chairs are. So that then within this space, above there, just in between here, starting there is another thin window. So I'm going to put that line down. Okay, now this is where, so I'm putting that angle, and this one comes down. And now there's another window there, but I'm sort of squeeze it up a bit, so I'm just going to put another window in there, just rough, right? And that angle comes down to the top of that window. And then there, the balconies, or sorry, the railings across here, I'm just going to do a freehand shape. Right, on an angle, that angle, there. And then up here, which is the bit of perspective that a lot of people sort of tend to get the angles wrong. These are not too bad on this person's drawing. I mean, it's up to you whether they're a little bit this way or a little bit that way, or they're more expressive. I mean, look at all the images of buildings from Matisse, the contemporaries, up to there. The angle of the buildings are changing the shapes. There are loads of them nowadays of what I call shape shifting. You move it a bit and see what happens. Okay, so now this angle is very steep compared to that. So I look at the angle, come out, and there it is there. Right, so I've got a sight of it. It comes down greater than the top of those. See, I'm using the pencil there, and then these carry on up here, right? So there are marks there, and this just sort of peters out there. And now there's a building very thin. So I'm going to go up, out from there, and put a line down to here. Now all these tables and chairs, right? So look, the line from here, the other post, so I look at the height of it, just below halfway here, and draw this post, which is in line here. So I draw that post, whatever that shape is. Now this one here, do a shape and pull that down. And that comes down to about there. So that, the shutter there. Now this is a little bit of dark. So these, I'm just going to do wiggles and squiggles on this line. So I see the line of these posts. It's on that line. And I was going to do some lines because that'll be in charcoal out to here. Now that's a contrast. There's a figure just here. So I'm going to put her in because her head is just in line with there. So I'll do a shape. It's all I want. Her. It's against the white. Up here, there are things coming out. So there's a sign there and another mark there, shutters, where this building is. And the windows are just lines, right? The perspective lines there and a few things. So now I've got this edge. Now here comes another building on a different angle, okay? So it's just in line somewhere up about there, and it goes to about halfway. So I look at the angle of this roof and go across to there, right? So I draw that angle there. It's got some tiles, so I put a shape up the top up here. That end of that building comes down. I'm not doing it exactly, so just in there, that building is in shadow, and then there's a shadow dropping from the guttering and under the overhang of the tiles, and that is on also a perspective. So here now with the sunlight. So this bit here, look, this is on a slightly different perspective. I'm cutting out some of the other bits, but I do like the balcony here. So I go across, look at that shape. You can look at the angle, transfer that here, and there's a window shape down. The top of the balcony, sorry, the bottom of the balcony is here, and I look at this angle to there. It's less than that angle, so I come down into there. Now it protrudes a little bit out the balcony, and in there that's all dark. And look at the angle of the shadow, right? It's from the light there. So then you get the shadow on an angle that coincides a little bit of that to there. It's going around a corner. Now there's other things. Just here, there's a door. So I'm going to put that door there next to that woman. And then under here, the light goes across the road. Okay? Now, there's some light here. See this? I don't know if you can see it there, the light. So I'm going to bring that light down a bit in there, right? An angle of light to that. Now, just above here, there's a bit of pipe. Look at the angle there. And this building, you just get a line where the downpipe is. This shape up there's a chimney, so I'll put a line straight there, and then there's a chimney pot, just the shape. So this angle, so there's the end of the building here, the dark. So I look at this line of tiles right there, and I'm going across to here, right up to there, and I look at the shape to there, and it's greater than this angle, right? That's the overhang of the building. Now I've gone past halfway because I'm going to bring this a little bit narrower where I put the light. Okay, so that one there, and then this building comes down to the street level, the line. And up here, that sort of hangs over, and there are windows, but I'm just going to put a couple of marks. Look at the angle at the bottom of the windows. It's greater there, so over here somewhere, about there on this, that's where the vanishing point is. So I can swivel this around to get different edges. See, I'm holding it on the vanishing point. That's the horizon line. Right, sorry, I made a mistake. That's the that's the middle line. So the horizon line's there, so I'm going to bring that down. See, it's still there, so that bit. So now I pull that. I'm holding that. Some people put a mark there, and I swivel it down to there. And there are windows just under here, so if I hold it and swivel that down, right, on the horizon line, if you want to put a little line like that, it's fine. And then just under the shadow, or just in between there, there's another row, so I pull that down, and then there's a row of windows, and I hold it on there and bring it down again so that it's in the middle, sorry, just above there. Hold that there and put that. So those lines are in perspective. So these, I bring they're thin, they're just a mark of the windows. 3 of them there, and they finish on that line here, and then the others, the shutters come there, 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 and so that be the end of the building there, just under here, in line with the end of there, this other building. So I look at the angle, it's in the distance, so it's less that. So I look at the angle, bring that across, and it's there. So that there's a little bit of shadow, so I bring a shape down, and in here I look across, so I'm going to do a rough angle. Then these windows, I take that, see the windows on a slight different angle, and do that, just some shapes. I look across now to here, to there, and do that angle, these smaller windows, and this street goes up. So just in line with that woman there is a patch of light, which I'm going to make greater through here, and I'm going to bring a shadow. This is this building here. I'm going to bring a shadow across there. Look at the angle of the shadow. There, there. So top of the building here, and this is shadow. There are some windows here. I'm not even counting them. There's one there. There's one in that line, or this line in here, the mark, and that's all in shadow. So that here, this group, I'm making this a bit thinner than what that is. So the line from this, so that's this edge. I'm going to bring that down to somewhere here, just above that, there, and it goes up, comes down. Now, the top of it is just opposite there. This, another one, look at this angle, right? It's there, how tight that is. Right, so I put that angle there, so that's the top. And the protrudences, I mean, there's a window, so I'm going to bring down a shape, and there's here, there's a balcony that goes out to there. Look at the angle, it's very steep here. That angle, then it goes in, and that angle here where it finishes is even steeper. It's there, right? Through that, sorry, less. Through there to there. And then under here, there's a long window. And then down here, you got the shops. So I'm getting the whole shape so that there's a postcard stand there, but just here and just there where this meets this building and the footpath. So I look across from this woman here. There it is there. And underneath that, I look at this angle and I go across and maybe rule a line, which is this, and opposite the door here, which is about there, and then the angle changes. Okay, so I've got the angle there. Now, what's this aspect? So from here, there's a line down there. Okay, so I want that corner. So I look across. It's just on the top of the where the balcony is, somewhere across there. So I put that shape. Now I want, so that corner there is that corner there. So I want the angle. I hope you can see this clearly. And I do that. So I look at it again, that angle. And then about here, it comes down. And then that goes off at a lesser angle. Right? So there, a lesser angle. And then, so that here, there's a thickness. The top, I can look across again to there, and that is going on a lesser angle. So it's coming down to the perspective of the horizon line. So in here it's dark, so all I'm going to do is a mark there, and a couple of sketchy lines here, and so forth. Now there are a couple of the pedestrian bollards, or whatever they're called, here. So I do a couple of shapes. Now, there are some marks on the road, so there's just a turn here, so I do a curl, and then the footpath, so that the markings on the footpath, I look at the shape, I look at the angle there, so I bring that, I don't know if you can see it all, and then here, I look across to there, there's this angle of this disappearing up here, so it finishes just, and I look across, beside the door, so it finishes there somewhere. It starts just under here from there, but it's going up, and so I look at that angle, bring that across to there. Now it's then on this angle, so I could do that to there, and there's the faded white paint, or in the shadow of that. So the next one is just past this line about here. I give it a width, roughly the same as that, and it goes up. So look, there's the vanishing point here, right? So it's there. So if I want to hold it on that point, and I go out, see it's in line and that. So we can do this if you want to get it right. As I said, I would be far more expressive in that drawing, but I'm hopefully showing a few tricks of the trade through there to put that into perspective. Right, maybe it's a little bit thicker there. Okay, now there are people here. So, apart from that person there, this couple, so their heads, he's a bit taller than her, his head is there. So it's just in there. So I'm going to do a shape, it's a bit bigger, and his feet finish here. And I'm going to put her slightly to one side. So then what the picture is, so her head is here, and her shoulders are level with there, and her feet come down there. So I'm going to draw a shape right there, and then pull the legs down. I look at the mark here, and she's walking so that this foot here is lower down than that foot, and give the legs a bend, and the rest is in dark. And him, I'm going to put his shoulder and his arm, so look at the shape, and her arm here, not doing it physically correct first, and his feet are in front of hers, so he's there. Now over here, there's a couple, right? Look, these ones here, which, like the figures there, I don't know if you can see them. So this chap's head is level with that, so it's in there. He's wearing a cap, so I put a mark, and his head, he's looking down, so I do that shape and make a mark. I can't see him, and now there's there's a woman there, so I do a shape, the size of it. I look at the head, look, you could count there, 7 of those shapes down, because we're roughly 7 heads to the length of the body. Her feet, when you look across, are lower to here. So his there. So basically her shape is down there and then here, and her legs are there, and her legs, other leg there. So she inhabits that shape. Okay, that's enough information for the pencil. So I'll put everything aside. Oh, did I say that I did the marking off the grid with a blue ballpoint pen against the black and white image? It was colour, but I changed it on the computer. Okay, where to start? Well, I'm going to start with one of these graphite pencils and going over this, just bringing the line down. At the same time, I've got a bit of willow charcoal in my hand, another bit there, just to get going. So I use the pencil this way, there's no right way, and I'm going to put a few lines, not too many, right, down there, and I'm going to, this bollard is dark, so I could take the willow charcoal and just press into it. Oh, by the way, I'm working on sugar paper, white sugar paper, so I'm just doing that shape roughly, and the other one I'll put that shape in roughly, and the door I'm just going to go in. I'm using the edge of the charcoal to put that in to there. And now with this again, up here is the balcony. I've done the shape, so I'm going to bring down a line. There are shapes going up of the railings. I'm not doing it in absolutely how it is. The line here of the break between, I'm going to do some broken lines. Doesn't matter one, it's a sketch. Now this window, I do a line, I'm going to colour that in here quite broadly, and the railings down here, I'm going to do them a little bit dark. See, I pressed just that shape a little bit under there. This is all in shadow, which will come later. The mark around there, there's a sign here. I'm going to just go up and down like that, up and down, and a rough line here, and maybe there's a downpipe, which is it. I just pull that down through here. The path here is a bit darker, so I'm putting these lines. There's the break and that, so I put some shapes here up against here. See how I'm working backwards and forwards, up there, line there, some shapes, upwards, backwards, forwards there. The shutter here, I'm going to go across and put these lines, and then they're going up fairly crudely into there. And this mark, this other window, I come down through there and do some bends for the railings, the angle in there. This window's thinner, so come down there, the railings, go around it. It's sketchy. Up here, past the railings, there another. I'm just going to put a mark there, draw down a line through here. Whoops, in the wrong place, but doesn't matter. Now this building here, it's very sharp, so I'm just going to bring a couple of lines down on that steep perspective, and then there are marks up here, another shape, a dot, a line, and there's some overhang for the window on that perspective. Pull that down. Here there's a sign, so it's dark, so I'm just going to go out and make a sketchy line, and down here, now where this dark corner is, so I'm pressing, it's level with that, so I'm going to go in, across, doesn't matter, there's smudgy bit, I'm going to go across here, some little wiggles and squiggles. There's the top of the railing, so that goes a line there, and a bit darker in there, a bit darker here. See, I'm wriggling and squiggling, and there are shapes, and there are lines, perpendiculars, verticals up here. And I'm going to go across, up and down, and across in there. And I look at this line coming through there, this person, a little bit lighter on the hair, and then dark here, just a shape into there. And I'm going to increase whatever this entrance is. Now up here, I'm going to bring this line down, give it a wiggle into there. This edge of the building, the chimney, just an indication through there, and that the overhang here, and put this line of shadow. I'm right-handed, as you can see, so I go that way. Left-handers go the other way, and filling this in this way to the top. And I want to leave a little bit of light on the tiles, so I'll give some wiggly lines, and then put that in, sketch. And then it's darker under here, so I'm going to go that way, fill it in there, and then the shadow, I'm going to go that way. But there's an angle on the shadow, so I'm going to exaggerate that. The inside of this window up there is darker, so I do that. And then there are some railings, so I just do the shapes in there and a line. And then there's a shadow, so I bring that down and going up the side there. And then there are lines here, there's another line there, and from this building there's a downpipe there, so I give a wiggle and a squiggle. And next to there, in line here, there's a door, so I'm going to do that, just a mark. I'm getting a little bit lighter, and along here there are these windows, so lighter. And then these windows here, so come down, little dots and dashes up here where this overhang is. So I do the wiggles and squiggles for the tiles. And then there's the shadow here, so I pull that down. This is further away in the sunlight, right? And up here there are windows coming from the shadows, gives it a three-dimensional, that bit. And then some lines here and some marks. And now I'm going to put a shadow down here, very light, scumbling marks to the top of the figures and in here. And there's a shadow off there and an angle there to this. So I put a few sort of soft lines, and there's a shadow, so I put that very soft. Now here's a shadow here, so I'm going to put that in lines all the way down into there and around up to there. And up here there are trees, so I'm not too worried about the trees, so shape there. And there's another building up here, so I'm going to put that, and it just is an accent against that, very light. There's a window up there, so it's in shadow, so I put a few marks. Here there's some darker windows, so I'm just colouring in the ones I put, and one's in the shadow, and one's here, they're a little bit bigger, and there, and then there's a line, and down here there's a bit of dark, and in here there's a dark door. Now the figures, so I'm going to sort of colour in him, and I'm going to leave her, the top of her head, a little bit lighter, and she's wearing dark. So across there, I look at the shape, she's out here, and I put some marks, wiggle squiggle for her leg. And don't forget, she's walking along, so this foot is lower than that foot, and I'll put some cross hatching him, and I'll put some cross hatching and bring his darker leg. He's in front of her, so there are more movements there. Shape, and as I said, that light, so I'm going up from that and across here. I'm doing another bit, and so this light, I'm going to put a line where I want this light to be. Okay, got the figures. So here, this building's in shadow. So I'm going to just bring a line down, and under there, I'm darkening that. I'm going to darken the window. Whoops, I hope you can see from my shoulder here. And then I'm going to put the overhang up here. And I'm going to bring this gap here. So I'm going to bring a line here, in there. I'm going to sketch that darkness in here, up and down. And then there's some shapes in here. So I go around this woman's hair and then peter that out. There are a couple of lines around, so I go up there. A couple of sketchy lines here. It's a bit darker in there. And now with that, some marks. She's wearing shorts, so I put a couple of marks. And then her legs, so a shape and a shape, marks. And he has got, as I said, it's got the cap, so I'm going to go up to the cap, around her head. His face is darker in there, sketchy. He's wearing a white, I think, shape, so I do some marks down to there. I'm bringing her foot there, lower than that, in here. Now this is all dark, so I'm going to go across up to him, and there, and up and down, and a shape to the corner there, and down here. There are posts here, so they're on an angle. Look, again, if you want to do, I take my stick and they start from about there. I look at the angle of them and bring that down. So they stop a little bit there, so they're roughly on that. They start up here and finish at her waist. So I'm just going to do these shapes. Doesn't matter if they're slightly crooked. There's a dog there. I might put the just shape of the dog. And there are things in there and marks there. So that's the sort of the sketch from the, as I said, I wouldn't, because I've done a lot, I wouldn't have done the grid shapes. There's another window up here, and that starts there. It's on an angle in there, and that's, maybe it's got shutters, the shapes there. Okay, so now I've got that. I want to put texture on and so forth. So I've got bristle brushes, right? Now in here, on this piece of cartridge paper, I'm going to take this is the compressed charcoal, and I'm going to rub, you can actually get charcoal dust, right? I'm rubbing that into there, some of the willow, I'm rubbing that in, so I've got a little pile of dust here, right? Charcoal dust. I think you can see it sitting on top of my watercolor palette. You see my fingers. Okay. Bristle brush. I've got some water. I'm just putting that into a little ramekin. See, just a bit of water. And I've got a bit of tissue in my hand. Okay. So, bristle brush, right? Sold as an oil painting brush. That's all bull. It can be used for anything, any form of painting. So I'm just going to, first of all, just put the brush into this charcoal, right? So it's wet. So I'm just putting the brush into the charcoal, right? So now with that, I'm going up to the corner and I'm just going to paint with the charcoal, right? Picking it up. And it deposits little bits and pieces. So I go around that, and I don't care whether it blends. So there's a shadow that goes across here. All of this is in shadow, right? So it's a darker, all of this is in shadow to there, and I pull it down to there, and all this road is in shadow. So a bit more, and I'm going across, muki muki. Now here's the line of light that I want, so I'm going to darken a little bit more up there with more charcoal. I'm going over the figures, but not everywhere, leaving light around there, shadow. Now here I'm going across and up and down, a little bit more dark here, scumbled across over the figures in there, and I'm going to take that just around his hat, wherever that is, in there, and a little bit of that. So where I put the heavy charcoal, a little mark for her head around there, over her trousers. Now I'm going to, look, see, when you press harder, you get a darker response. Dry brush. Now, the legs, and I do that. Now over here, a little bit more water, through there, there, and over here. Now, I want to put some texture in. So, I've got a piece of newspaper, which I'm going to lay down an edge. It's a bit broken, but I'm going to lay that there, okay? Bit of newspaper, you could pin it. So there's a little bit up the top I want light, so I'm going to lay that across that angle there. So I've got all this. Now with this same brush, I'm now going to dip that into the charcoal dust, right? A little bit more, and I'm just going to splatter. Texture, right? Patience. If it doesn't work the first time, do it again. Mix it. The more you mix the charcoal, if you've got the charcoal dust, now I'm splattering it over the figures because I want them in the shadow. And I could pick the board up to make it more, so I'm concentrating on there. It'll run down like watercolor. Texture, a little bit more. So I've got a lovely grey. I'm going to take that off. So you can see a bit of the texture there. I'm going to take more of this dust. I want a bit more darker. It's running down, I like that, so I'm going to take more of the compressed charcoal and rub it in here. Where is it? There it is. So a big lot of the compressed charcoal. You can see the dust coming off. Put it back there and dampen it, and I'm just going to splatter texture on the road. And in the shadows, and little bits on the building for light and dark. Shapes. Okay, so now I want a little bit of drama with the light. So I am going to darken black up here, right? So this is where, I mean, it doesn't matter, this is all light, we don't know. I want to dramatize this. This is light, this is light. So you could leave it light. I'm going to do it darker just for the dramatics. So I'm going to start here and press, leaving a little bit of light around that chimney. Now I'm going to smudge my fingers. This is compressed charcoal. I love the dark of it. So I pull it down, around there. Now I'm going along where I've taped it. Did I mention, by the way, I've got the masking tape along, and because it's sugar paper, I've pulled it across my thigh to lessen the tackiness so I don't rip the paper. So pushing this in, and then that angle there, and rubbing it in. Now I'm going to take my finger and smudge it all in, and maybe just around there up to the edge of this. Don't go too much on the water, it'll rip the paper. And then the shape in there and down there, and I'm going to do dark up against that and in to there for the dramatics, and suddenly that gets lighter. Now I'm going back to the brush. Bit of that, I'm going to darken this bit with the water, a little bit darker under there, and pull that one down, the shadow, and pull that. The bristle brush makes lovely marks, and under there a few little dots, and the shadow on this building, so I pull that down, and then the one along there, and then this shadow, so I pull that down into there and under there, and I'm going to put a few little blobs of charcoal on these windows, and then that shadow, so I want it more expressive over the railings, bend them up here, this window, so I paint, but see, I'm not doing it exactly, I want it sort of rough edges, a bit like him there, so a little bit darker in here, so pull down that, dark there, texture. Okay, so I'm going to dry this now, the hairdryer, and find it, there it is. Ooh. Now look folks, as I said, I'm still relatively new at all this video making and how to keep my business going, etc. Everybody in this state of affairs, it's bloody difficult, but hopefully we'll manage. So please, when I do go online, YouTube, or share, there's another one, share something, please, if you like it, tell me, comment, ask questions, and if the subscriptions are up, please don't forget to subscribe. So I'm going to dry this. It's going to take a while, so I'll just take some of that. I'm going to turn the video off. Okay, so I've dried it with a hairdryer. I am now just going to take some, I hope you can see the texture. I could just see the marks for the pedestrian crossing. I want the dark to be emphasize the light, so I'm going to take the willow charcoal and just smudge it a bit. Use my fingers for texture, bring it down, shapes across it, smudge it. You can still see the splattering, so I'm smudging off some of the marks. It's darker up there, so take that line and I want the light to go up from there, so the shadow, so it just sort of comes through there. This shadow, so take the line again, smudge it with my fingers up there. Now I'm going to go around these marks on the road, go around there, the edge of the charcoal, around there and around there, and the edge across the bottom, through there and across there, and fill it in a bit, smudge it, really press hard, and it's a little bit darker there, so I put some texture, and around that put some texture around the edge. You can still see my brush marks up there, smudge it, pull that down through there, smudge it, mark making there. It's a bit darker there, so I put some shapes, smudge my fingers around it, and then up to there, a couple of marks. Now I'm going back to the charcoal pencil. In here it's darker, so I'm pressing in, and I want some marks, rough marks, down to the door, the edge, sorry, to the footpath, round there, a little bit of emphasis here. This is dark in here, so go around that bollard again, darker up there, a line down here, a little bit of an edge, darken this window, it's the closest there, marks, little dots and dashes around the there, I'm going to take this out a little bit where that person is and put up and down, dark, there, and a line down and a few marks, a little bit there, emphasize that door a little bit, go out, and then the shadow out there, a few little marks, that shadow, take that balcony out a bit. This shadow, I'm going to darken it from there, and then darken that. These windows, a bit of mark. I'm going to darken this edge, that's that there, up to this, and run that in around there. These posts, I just darken the bottom. The dog here, just put a shape sniffing the post, tail out, bottom there. Now this figure, this woman, I'm going to darken her across, and then her arm there, and a little bit darker for her trousers, and little shape, hem, mark, little indications, legs, that, there. Now this chap out there, do a line, his arm, and yeah, she's got a backpack on, emphasize legs, little mark, shoes, this angle here, do a couple of sketch marks. There's something in the window that he's looking at, there's an arch there, do a shape, put a few marks in there, there's something that, the shapes in there for the postcard, I do that mark, a little bit darker here, this window there, a little bit there, a little bit darker there, a couple of dots and dashes, and a few marks, sketchy. So I think that'll about do. I hope you got something from it. The idea of gridding lines up square. I mean, Degas did that. Numerous artists start from a drawing and take this to a painting. As I said, in that picture, it's light. That picture, so I've just given you another option. It picks the light up. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, as I said, I put the tape on, so I'm just going to, before I look, I'll take these out. The pictures, look online, find some images. Okay, I remove those, put the pins down there, take that. Now, as I said, the tape, this is sugar paper. You could use graphite, but sugar paper has a slight texture. See how they're splattering. Now, I'm going to remove one before I turn the video off. And I turn it that way, not that way, very gently pull it up. And you'll see suddenly the different greys and the white of the paper. So gently. If it rips, but take your time. Pulling it away, flat down. This goes with watercolor too. I see people do that and then they ripped it gently. Look at the lovely texture there with the charcoal. Beautiful grey. It almost has little touches of a sort of yellow with the water. Not that the water's yellow, it's still clean, but there's some. Now, see, I've pulled that off. So now I'm going to turn the video off and mount it. Okay. Okay, that's hopefully the finished product. There's always something that you can do. I mean, sketches like this big, but even in a small sketchbook, but trying to keep some of it with the energy and the marks and whiffles and squiffles and wriggles and dashes and lines that, yes, if you practice, if you look, anybody can draw in perspective. Anybody can. It's just the realization of where the horizon line is at your eye level. And again, if you want me to do more demos considering perspective, I mean, there are professors of perspective. There are sort of problems within measuring and so forth, but mathematics sometimes comes into it, the golden rule. But at the end of the day, I say it's up to the eye. The eye, you're looking. This is quite a few things, but see the splattering, right, of the charcoal. I've fixed it, so that with the variations of the brush mark, bringing those out. This picture, the gridding, the people, the dark light, and then I've emphasized the light by placing that dark up there. I hope that's okay, understandable. That'll do.